And we are rolling. I'll go ahead and start so we can get going. Welcome everyone to Think Tank. This is episode 13. 13, lucky number 13. Each day we share the news in an open dialogue, discuss how it might affect the business world. We speak with different leaders on crisis navigation and management, as well as experts like today with Jessica in professional and personal self-betterment. It's meant to be a break. It's meant to be some learning and the sharing of good news and ideas to start people moving forward. It's Think Tank. So we've got, we're going to have fun today, and this is going to carry on with an actual session with Jessica and Liani, so you all can see what that looks like and might maybe incorporate that into your virtual meetings or real meetings when those happen again. And then tomorrow we are going to have the football coach. What is the exact title there, Robbie? It's court.
Yeah, he's an offensive coordinator, Doug, at Richardson High School.
So that's going to be
but as much as that is cool, he also heads up the peer leaders program at Richardson, which is a program that was set up some time ago, but it's for students to help other students that may be going through some type of crisis, and helps those particular kids have an outlet if they have difficulty maybe having the discussion with their parents or with someone on the faculty. So I mean he's done that. Before Richardson he held the same position at Pierce High School, J.J. Pierce here in Richardson as well for 18 years, I think. So your daughter may or may not know him, Doug.
So that'll be interesting. He'll bring the sports as well as education side, as well as how are people mentally and physically dealing with the time. So that'll be fun. That's tomorrow.
Yeah, real quick, I talked to him yesterday, and he said, yeah, I just said, hey, I said, Coach, what's the day like for you? And he got into a little bit of it, but he said, I got sad this morning because I looked at my phone and I had the reminder that spring football was to start here in Richardson yesterday.
Uh-oh.
So anyway.
All right. We've lost our special guest. Well, that won't stop us. No, here she comes back. Everyone kind of knows everybody here.
If only we had somebody who knew technology on this call.
There we go. Hold on. Let me unmute her. Unmuted. Hello, Jessica.
Hi. Sorry about that.
Good. No, we were talking other elements while you were gone.
Okay.
Typically, now we jump into any interesting news anyone would like to share or updates on what's happening with loans or work or themselves.
Well, they did release the Get My Payment web portal, the IRS did, where you can check on the status of the economic relief payment, the stimulus payment. But by the mid-morning, it got overloaded and it was kicking back. You know, Sam, I think it had worked when I was doing it. By the time you tried, it was not.
It was gone.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, but it can be found, irs.gov. Get My Payment is the link.
All right.
It allows you to check on the status of that stimulus payment.
Very good.
Okay.
Hey, Doug, have you ever done any work with Cinemark? Because they're obviously here local.
No, I have not.
I just literally an hour or so ago, the CEO of Cinemark was quoted as saying that they're going to seriously attempt to have their theaters open in some format by June of this year. And I thought it was interesting. Obviously, earnings came out today and they were in the tank, but according to him, they can be a profitable company with only 20 or 30% occupancy.
Wow.
Really?
As long as everyone's buying popcorn.
Yeah.
I know. It just totally struck me as so odd. But, you know, they were talking about programs that they're putting in place, the obvious ones, only selling seats literally 6 feet apart. So what is that, one every 3 seats or something? But it was just interesting. The thing that caught my eye was that, wow, what a great business model.
Well, I had done some work with Studio Movie Grill in the past. And one of the interesting things too about what's going on, I was chatting with some folks in that kind of that space, and they're talking about, so you think about, okay, so if Cinemark or whoever opens up, what are they going to show? Right? Because everything, all the truly new content's been pushed off until fall or later. And they were talking about, saying what we're going to try to do is do things like classic movies, wear a costume, themed food. Yeah. So they were being, what I love about it is, as we've talked about this, one of the themes we've chatted about is, obviously the name of this thing is moving forward, and they're going to move forward, be innovative, be creative, and try to get people back in the theater, to get them thinking about the movies before the new content releases. So
yeah, that's cool. That's the genius of Alamo Drafthouse. They've been doing that now for a while.
Absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
What's going to be the genius of getting people back into the big stores like Penny's and Macy's, because Penny's is thinking of maybe going into bankruptcy.
Well, yeah, so that's exactly right, Dr. Paulus. So Penny's is probably going to file. Nordstrom's and Neiman's have got the paperwork ready to file bankruptcy, and Macy's is probably 3 weeks away from filing bankruptcy.
Wow.
Yeah, and yesterday the chairman of PVH Corporation, which I guess is the Gap, which is Ralph Lauren, it was an interesting interview with him. He was saying that, basically what this is going to do is fast track what was already happening in their industry by 4 or 5 years, because as we all know, brick and mortar is going away.
So is Robbie.
Apparently Robbie is too.
And here's Jessica.
We talk about brick and mortar going away. So who knows the approximate percentage of purchases in the U.S. made in brick and mortar?
It's like 20% now, isn't it?
87%.
Oh, I was
is brick and mortar. So all the talk about everything being online, as of the first quarter of this year, 87% of purchases in total were made in brick and mortar.
There's a psychology to that. People love the touch, right? And love to see it in close. Right?
It's still about the experience, right?
Right.
And so the idea, now there's also economic divides, and that there's groceries that people didn't want to buy on. There's a lot of underneath that. But I just think it's fascinating that, we talk about the death of brick and mortar, and, it is in fact still the vast, vast, vast majority. This may accelerate that change. That's what Robbie was just saying, exactly right. We were, Dr. Paulus, remember we were talking about, it's not necessarily what's going to be different, it's what's going to be accelerated. Right. This may be one of those things.
Kimball shared something in an email, which was interesting and kind of adventurous. The PGA is starting up. What was that, Kimball? July?
Was it July or June?
Really?
Yeah, I mean, that's
the
crazy.
first tournament.
I think it's June.
Isn't it June, Merck? Is that right? I'd have to be reminded. I thought it was June. Yeah.
I hadn't heard that. That's aggressive.
Let's see if we can.
Incoming. Anyone?
Bueller.
They can distance and as well, right? Distance and wear masks.
Yeah, and I didn't hear and I didn't read whether they were going to allow the general public there, or if it's just all going to be on TV, which would be fine too,
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's begin with our special guest, Jessica Micheletti. You will see her. I don't know where you'll see her on the screen. I see her. Oh, she's moving now. But, it's been interesting. We've been talking about moving forward and how do we do that. And Doug shared with us the 10 basic steps that you need to. And Dr. Paulus shared some of the science behind what you need to do psychologically to get moving forward and to be perhaps a better leader and prepare yourself. And the number one step was first kind of get right with yourself, get centered, understand what you need to understand and how you feel about the situation and get comfortable with that, because with that, you can then be a strong and powerful leader and you can lead with conviction. And part of that, again, we did earlier, or we did last week with that really cool meditation app and how to find those moments. And uh, Jessica is a longtime friend with Thinkers and Red Button, and has really brought some very interesting experiences and elements to events we've been a part of. And it's always fun to have her and Leonie, who you'll hear about here in a minute, at these events. So Jessica has a master's in public health. Jessica, stop me if I overstate or understate. She is a expert in yoga and meditation and mindfulness. She has a 500 ERYT rating. How many people know what that is? No one. So I went and looked, and that's pretty crazy, Jessica. That means that you've been training other yoga instructors and spent, it was like 2,000, 3,000 hours doing so.
Well, yeah, actually the last 12 years. So it's beyond that point by now. Mm-hmm.
So you either really know what you're talking about or can really convince people in whatever you're talking about. But I think it's choice one. So Jessica connects on a heart level to people of all walks of life, which has led her into a variety of yoga and wellness related settings all over the world, from one-on-one mentorship to aspiring yoga teachers to consultants for studios and mindfulness retreats for executives. She has even taught yoga at the White House, not once, not twice, 8 times at Easter doing the Easter egg roll. And she's helped over 350,000 families learn the power of yoga and mindfulness. She is a creator of live experiences for the soul. We're going to talk about that and maybe do that in a couple days. And now, like this month, like this week, like last week, has been transitioning all of that online into a virtual format, which, like all of us, you have to find new ways to connect and engage. And that's how she's doing that. So we're going to hear a little bit today about how she got to where she got, what was she typically doing, and how she transitioned during this time period. And then she's going to give us a fun little, I don't know if it's a happiness meditation or just a couple minutes that'll help you refocus and recenter each and every day. So Jessica, what did your journey look like? How did you get to where you're at now and spend so much time and in depth to become the yoga and mindfulness master that you are?
Well, all of those labels and titles, wow, it's a little bit overwhelming. But I'm always appreciative of hearing about how you view me, and just the kindness and your generosity of spirit, and reaching out and wanting to connect and integrate what I love to do and what my partner Leonie and I love to do in settings like this is really meaningful, and I'm grateful for your support and all of your kindnesses. So everybody, thanks for tuning in and wanting to listen to dialogue together today. It's what lights me up, and it's what's made a difference in my own life. As Sam mentioned, I have a master's in public health, and I spent the early part of my career in communicable disease and emergency preparedness. And so as I say that, especially with what we're experiencing right now, I'm extra grateful for having those experiences and being ready to transition this work of mindfulness into our world today. So, and I just lost everybody. Oh, did you put a screen up for everybody?
Yeah, so they can all see a little bit about you as that's going. You are now up in the corner.
Great. And so as we're getting, or me personally, I'm getting used to all of this technology and how to transition the work of mindfulness to this format. I'm grateful for having those previous experiences. I was also, I'm a retired triathlete and ultra marathoner and marathoner. And this yoga and meditation work really made a difference for me about 12 years ago. As I said, I was training hard for half Ironman triathlons, and eating, and had a coach, and was swimming and running and biking all the time, and found myself just extra agitated and extra anxious at work. I was also at that point working in emergency preparedness. And so I thought, oh, I'll cut out caffeine and we'll see if that makes a difference. And it took the edge off a little bit, but it didn't really get that feeling for me that I needed. And started doing yoga and meditation, and realized over time that I could make a bigger difference on a population-based level, sharing these practices and tools, as opposed to helping everybody to build an emergency preparedness kit for their house. And so that's really what made the difference for me in my own life. And I stayed in marathoning and triathloning for a little while after that, and saw huge improvements in my splits and my times and all of that physically. And it was at about that point that I realized, that this is essentially an experiment. We really had all the science to back up that these practices, these ancient practices, work at that point, but I hadn't really done the experiments on myself. And so that's where it all started, with teaching. It's like, okay, I'm going to try this on. I'm going to see if this kind of meditation works. I'm going to see if this kind of yoga practice works, and this kind of movement. And how I shift it and experience it in my own life is really what I'm sharing now, are the differences that have been made for me. And what I'm finding is that when folks get, we have all the information, and information isn't what changes behavior. But when folks get easy to integrate tools that they can experience some quick success with, and then take into their families and their social circles and have the supports they need, that's when behavior starts to shift with practice over time. And we end up with greater senses of well-being. We then see the humanity in one another. And that's what I'm up to, is connecting people on a human level, rather than just, through Zoom, making sure that the deliverables are met.
Right. So Scott, did you hear that? That's going to help your triathlons if you do this. Okay. Oh, won't help your microphone though. You have to unmute.
Yeah, we couldn't hear you.
So Jessica, then kind of day to day, your focus now is training trainers, is doing executive kind of workshops, is now doing, we'll transition to that, but prior to COVID was doing workshops at events all around and in studios all over the place. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. And what has been really helpful and interesting and inspiring for me is being able to bring this work into a variety of different environments. So if it's public health or healthcare organizations, or like our work with John Hancock Insurance over last summer, variety of different, working with commercial real estate company currently, any kind of setting is what inspires me to be able to learn the language of that community and then adjust these practices to fit that audience. So
okay. So when COVID happens, I'm sure you had a couple events that were up and coming, or people with interest. What did you figure out? Have you seen anyone who's done this with success online? Was there a formula to follow, or is just kind of figure it out as we go? And one little thing, if you can look to the left more right at the camera, there you go. That's perfect.
There's
Good.
my camera.
Yeah, there you go. Now there we go. There's Jessica. Good. Yeah.
Okay.
So how did you figure out, or what are you figuring out? Because no one's figured it out. What are you figuring out is the best way? And can you still really connect with people like you could when we were sitting there touching each other and smelling those amazing oils and doing all that?
Yeah.
Does it translate?
Yeah. Well, a lot has shifted over the last few weeks. A couple of contracts are on hold, and we're hoping that those will get rescheduled, as you and I spoke about the other day. We're hoping for rescheduling rather than canceling. And what I'm finding is there's lots of folks doing things similar to what I do online. But what's of interest to me is having these 30-minute quick breaks, quick sessions with folks and organizations where we can just take a break we can have a moment. And so that's what I've started to dial in, is shifting the contracts to, like, let's meet twice a week for 30 minutes and go through some movement experiences, some mindfulness experiences, and have it on a regular schedule so people can start integrating it into their lives and practice it. And I'm available for questions and adjustments and resources and things like that. So that's been a shift over the last few weeks. And then also we're recording videos for clients at special requests that will support the theme of their conferences that they're now taking online. So the conferences are virtual, as you guys, I'm sure, already are experiencing. And we're going to make those videos available for them on demand, like I said, specific to what their conference is about. So everything's tailored and curated based on what the client's needs and audiences are.
So here's an interesting.
Everything online is a big shift.
Here's an interesting question. I know it's funny when you do classes like that, or it's interesting to see, people do and don't like to be seen, or do some of these moves. So do you see a lot of screens going black when you're doing it during the Zooms?
Yeah, and I encourage it because I don't know about you, but even if you're in your home, taking a moment to close your eyes. Sometimes we're overstimulated. We're not in a position where we want to close our eyes, and then to have our eyes closed and have someone watching, if you will. Yeah. It doesn't necessarily contribute to that feeling of safety and security that we need in order to start to slow the brain waves down. So I just invite people. I'll introduce it. I'll show them what they need to see if they need to see anything. And then I invite them to turn their video off. And then when it's time to rejoin and they want to check in with the group and see all the faces and all of that, then I encourage them to check back in that way. But not having any hard and fast rules around, like, you must be seen.
Right. Okay. Well, tell us a little bit for those that haven't seen it or experienced it. Tell us about your live experience that you do when you and Liani are together, because that really is pretty magical. We've all, several of us on here have experienced it, but it's a special thing, and I think it probably will translate beautifully online. But tell us what that is and why that's different than your traditional sort of yoga or mindfulness class.
Right. Well, I'm glad that there are so many of you on the call today that have experienced it. So please contribute to this, because obviously I'm biased in my presentation of it. I've never experienced anything like it before. And, like I said, I've been traveling in this yoga, meditation, mindfulness, wellness world for professionally for about 12 years. And what we do we create experiences that are anything from soothing, relaxing, quiet, nurturing, meditative, to rock and roll, effortful, sweating, lots of energetic movement. And we do that based on how our audience presents. So Liani's a musician, and she grew up in the church leading worship. So she's really tuned into how the audiences are presenting, what the emotions are, what they're showing us with their body language and their facial expression, how they interact with us on the way into the session. So all of the music that she creates or that she plays gets created in the moment. And she does that with her voice. She does that with her guitar and with her violin. And she layers all of those instruments on top of one another to create this soundscape that complements not only how they're presenting, but what I'm seeing, what I'm teaching, and what I'm saying that's in contribution to the experience. Another thing that makes it different is that as a teacher, I'm not using my body to demonstrate what they should be doing. I use my voice and I use body parts to guide the experience. So there's no element or it's less element of comparison and competition and like, oh, I need to look like the teacher in the front of the room. We really try to kind of level things out so folks can have an experience and not have a sense of that they have to keep up or do something a certain way. So there's lots of acceptance and compassion and guidance towards an inner listening. So when we start inner listening, taking care of ourselves on the inside, in touch with ourselves on the inside, then when we go out there into the world and do our thing, it's easier to connect on a human level.
Very good.
Jessica, I can promise you, Jessica, that Sam and I look just like you when we were doing all of the movements. Didn't we,
very
Sam?
close in our minds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Just like you, but completely different.
Yeah, it was funny the first time when we met Jessica, we were at a weekend retreat, and I don't know if we fully intended that we were going to be a part of that, Robbie, honestly, but then all of a sudden everyone kind of had to, so we said, okay, let's go. And oh my gosh, it was really fascinating to see. I'd never really done anything like that, but so you all know, Jessica does, she sets the room, she sets the environment, and gets everyone in the right mind. And then Liani will start very Ed Sheeran playing a bar or, a frame of some sound, and then start layering it on top of each other. So within a couple minutes, you've got all kinds of layered ambient noise and sound bringing you more and more into the experience that's happening. It's a very powerful thing. So, Jessica, back to our number one thing we're trying to do, and that is somewhat like get right with yourself, to get focused, to be comfortable with where we are at that time, and to have basic tools or understandings or methods so that we can do that when we find ourselves getting in this, hey, we need an answer, or what's going on, or all this uncertainty. Is yoga and mindfulness a good thing for that? And how does that work?
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm going to say yes. It's,
Yeah.
it's a good thing for
good
for all of that. And I also I want to say, yoga, when we use the word yoga, people have an idea about what that is. And I just want to put out that there are as many kinds of yoga as there are kinds of wine, kinds of tea, kinds of chocolate, like there kinds of candy. Like there are that many kinds. And so lately, depending on the audience, I've been using movement as a way to get people to connect, because Sam, your running can be considered a moving meditation. It's a practice of mindfulness, it's a practice of attention. Like somebody else on the call is a triathlete. Like those activities, whatever we do to get ourselves in the present moment, is what we're after for everything that I offer. Getting people to pay attention from moment to moment, if it's washing the dishes, or preparing a meal, or sitting in the backyard enjoying the sunshine. Our intention is to be more present in the moment, so these experiments we're conducting with ourselves, we can be present to those outcomes and then shift or change based on that data that we're collecting. So this presence.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Doug had an interesting point. One of the biggest things he does. So Doug works with boards of corporations and CEOs when they're in times of crisis or challenge. They come to him. He helps them kind of assess the situation and figure out a tactical action plan to move forward and move through those times. And he's created kind of a 10-step process to do that. But the first step is you find yourself with all these high pressure decisions you have to make, and it's yes or no, and you can't make those decisions. But his first step is to stand back a little bit from those decisions and get straight and get right and figure out and stop and think, so that you can go back and in a sound mind address those, as opposed to be in this pressure cooker of I need an answer right now, so take a couple minutes in doing that. So yeah, perhaps we can start to jump into the fun thing you were going to share with us today, the 5 minutes. What did you want to call it? I couldn't come up with a good word for that, but
I've been calling
mindful moments.
Mindful moments, breath breaks. The activity we're talking about, I'm calling a happiness formula.
Very good.
But I think, I appreciate what Doug shared about being able to take a step back. And I think that people need tools to know how to do that. And
That's right.
there's lots of different strategies out there and practices, and we got to try them on to see what works for each of us individually, because it's not going to be the same for everyone. So finding that moment of pause is what is critical, especially in times of crisis.
Very good. So besides doing all these things, Jessica is a researcher for sure, and she is a constant learner and always brings interesting insight to a conversation. So we had some great conversations the other day talking about this, and she started telling me about the 5-3-1 method. And so I thought we would go through that. You can give us an explanation, or maybe even do that, Jessica, and that'll give us a taste of doing a breath break with you perhaps later next week. Does that work?
Great. Well, yeah, absolutely. You were slowing down a little bit. So I'm not sure exactly what the request was. I can do a little snippet of a breath break right now and tell you about the happiness formula. Is that what you were asking?
Yeah.
Okay.
Does that sound good, everyone? Okay.
Great. So the happiness formula is something that was developed out of the University of Wisconsin-Madison and their Center for Mindfulness. And it's simple. It's 5-3-1. Oh, there it is. Thanks for the slide, Sim. So 5 minutes of meditation, of quiet, of stillness every day. And then acknowledging 3 good things that have happened in the day, or 3 things that you're grateful for. And then connecting 1 act of kindness. And I think this is really easy, something that we can all do together. We can do it every day, and we can integrate it with our support systems and our families. And I think it's especially important right now, this 5 minutes of space, especially as we're all sheltering in place together. And then acknowledging each day 3 things that we're grateful for. That act of kindness, I think, is unique right now, because it might just seem like, oh, I can wash the dishes for my partner, or I can take care of something else. But what I'm finding is that cleaning out the closet and establishing the box that I'm going to donate for when I can donate again is even bringing me more of a sense of well-being. So trying to do things that are a little bit outside of what I can do right now, planning for the future, is keeping me having something to look forward to, like extending the act of kindness a bit. So anyway, the other thing I wanted to share with you today is this practice of resonant breathing called box breathing. Just give me a little wave if you've heard of box breathing before. Anybody? Yeah, Sam, good. Okay, great. So box breathing is a technique that the Navy SEALs use to regulate their nervous system. And it's a way to bring the body and the mind and the breath back to homeostasis. So what we'll do is we'll take a few deep breaths together. Then I'll cue you. We'll breathe in on the count of 4. We'll hold the breath in for 4 counts. We'll breathe out for a count of 4. And then hold the breath out for 4 counts. Now, the Navy SEALs do this for like upwards of 5 minutes and greater period of time. We're just going to take a few rounds together. And then after I stop cueing, I'll let you do a few rounds on your own, and then I'll bring the group all back together just to breathe together, and then we can share any experiences that you had. So that's what we've got in front of us. Sound good?
Okay, to do it sitting down? Do we need to stand up, or?
I encourage you just to be comfortable. So
okay.
Sitting down, lying down, anything goes. Just not in a position where you're experiencing any physical discomfort, or you'll feel like you have to fidget or move a lot. Yeah, good. Yeah, so let yourself be comfortable. You can have your eyes open or closed. I found it's a little bit easier for me to do this with my eyes closed, to focus on holding the breath those moments. Or if you're not comfortable closing your eyes, you can just close them down a little bit just to let a little bit of light in. So try on whatever works. So get yourself in a comfortable position. There you go. Good. I'll invite you to close your eyes if you like. You can take a deep breath in through the nose. And then open your mouth and exhale. Let's do that again. Deep breath in through the nose. And open, exhale. One more like that. Breathe in.
Should there be a count on the exhale?
Breathe out. We're just open the mouth on the exhale. So it doesn't matter. Good. Now take a breath in through the nose for the count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold the breath in. 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it out. 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it out. 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe. 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold. 4, 3, 2, 1. Now go on your own. You can make the count faster or slower. A couple rounds. Notice if you can relax the shoulders and the jaw. Softening the muscles of the face. Good. And then release. And just staying in stillness, keeping your eyes closed if you're able. Just let your breath return to its natural pace. And scan your body. Just notice any sensation. Let's see if you can come into a space of just watching the thoughts as they come and go. And let's take a couple breaths together. Inhale through the nose. And exhale, let it out. One more. Breathe in. And breathe out. Good. What was that like for you?
That's good because I never find myself taking the time to do that. And it makes a big difference when you do. And it was interesting. I was just thinking as we were doing it, if you use those methods and tied it with the app that we played with last week,
Yeah,
that would be really interesting to see those two work together like that.
that's what I was remembering. Using the diaphragm, kind of the belly is where that
deep
breath, and because I found myself lifting shoulders, and then I realized that it needed to be the diaphragm.
The other interesting note on that, Jessica, is that the Navy SEALs use that method to go to sleep as well. And because, you know, they're on mission or whatever, and they have to stay alert and awake, and they might get 20 minutes to take a nap. That's how they do it. I read a whole article about that. They start with
I
that,
know.
and in no time they're asleep.
That's fascinating. And the, you know, ancient yogis have been doing it for thousands of years. So I just love that now we have this marriage of science and experience that's getting mainstream. It's getting exposure, and it's free and accessible. Anyone can do it.
Well, very good. Well, so everyone try to remember that box breathing, and more importantly, finding those moments or acknowledging those moments, because we just go through the day doing our things and we don't stop and pay attention to what's going on. So when you stop and pay attention, whether it's simply breathing or running or cooking, as Jessica was saying, those are the times that you can start doing these things, which will help you recenter a little bit. Any questions from anyone?
Jessica, where's the rock star? Where's your rock star?
She's tied to her computer. Leona, you want to come say hi? She doesn't have her face on, so.
Oh, well, heavens no then.
She's saying hello in spirit.
So box is B as in boy?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
It's also called four-part breath.
4-part breath. Okay.
Yes.
So the question I have is, I work on creativity, and we're interested in, you know, moods, mindfulness, and creativity. So interesting whether you use this for that purpose at all.
Definitely personally, and in the trainings that I facilitate, we'll use it before approaching any kind of innovative or exploratory or new activity, just to help everybody settle and get on an even space, like get the mind and body back to homeostasis.
Right. Okay.
How are you
Dr.
have you used it, Dr. Paulus?
Pardon?
Have you used these
Yes.
breathing practices? Yeah.
No, I'm a flow guy. You know, I'm not a triathlete. My daughter is, but I'm just a busy guy, right? I haven't done this, although with the new Breastscape app, I started doing that, and it's working, and I like this too. We work on mindfulness and mind wandering and creativity, you see, and so it's a very important process. Today, we just had a dissertation meeting preparation on the effects of humor and creativity, which has to do with moods and so on, right? And so it's really about your mental state and creativity. And so there's a lot of literature now on mindfulness, obviously, and task performance, mindfulness and work, and also mind wandering, which is part of this as well. Your mind, you're about focus, but also allows your mind to now wander to also different spaces. And they're both important for creativity. So I think it's a very important issue. We're just beginning to work on that. But it's now emerging literature. So I write about it, but I haven't really done systematic work on it yet.
Oh, well, I'm happy to hear that you're experimenting on yourself now.
Yes.
With the practices. And there's tons of different breathing practices to try on. What I offered here is just one. So there's a variety that produce calm, some produce energy. It all just depends on the process. So there's tons of work out there for pranayama practices, is the Sanskrit label.
Great. Well, I'm going to send it to my daughter, who's a triathlete, and also her husband's a special ops person. So they can both use it. I'm going to ask whether or not he, in his training, ever had to do these kinds of things like the SEALs.
Oh yeah, that'd be interesting to find out.
Yeah.
It's interesting. We promote it, or actually just kind of do it on a small level in a way, but that whole idea of resetting everyone and get them focused for whatever it is, Dr. Paulus, in our general workshop, when we do the Picasso thing where we have everyone draw something and they all get engaged and do it. The interesting note there is that they forget everything they were doing prior, whether it's a phone call, an email, or a conversation, and they're completely focused.
Wow.
And that's so powerful to see everyone level set like that and be like totally in the moment and present. And so we've been promoting and pushing, let's first start the day, if you really are going to jump into this day of innovation and creativity, with getting your mind and your body focused. And that's doing that with Jessica and Liani. That's doing it with running or walking or whatever it may be. So you've got some live guinea pigs is what I'm telling you. All right. Any other questions for Jessica?
I'm going to check out your website, see what's going on.
All right, great.
Thanks,
I was
Jessica.
gonna I was going to ask a quick question. Since we're all sheltered in place right now, do you have any thoughts on the connection between mindfulness and the diet aspect? Because now that I'm sheltered in place, I feel like I eat everything in the house.
Oh, did you say diet?
Yeah, nutrition.
Yes. Nutrition, and
Yeah,
diet,
nutrition,
and how it's
yeah.
tied in.
Yeah, well, thank you for saying that, because I too am gobbling up all the comfort foods that I can get my hands on or make. I think it's a natural thing for us to go back to those things that make us feel safe. And in our culture, food is definitely one of those things. And food, shelter, and clothing are at the clothing at the bottom of the pyramid for Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So of course we're drawn to fat and sugar, and then of course caffeine and alcohol, all the other things that we do to numb out and make ourselves feel comfortable. So I think just what's important is like what you've offered is just acknowledging, hey, this is happening for me right now, and having some kindness and compassion around that, being gentle with ourselves and acknowledging that it's time limited, most likely. For most of us, it's just going to be a short period of time. And so if I'm going to grab a handful of jelly beans, I'm going to be okay with it and really enjoy it, rather than worrying about anything else around that right now. So I think that's what's most important, whether it's diet or any of the other choices, the binge watching of the television or the online shopping. The important thing right now is to be kind and compassionate and gentle with ourselves, because it's a traumatic time. We haven't been through anything like this before. And so starting at that place is going to just make us better people for the people that we're sheltering in place with, better people for the people that we're connecting with online, and then coming out of this as we transition out into what this new way of being is going to be. If we're anchored in that practice of compassion, we're going to be better off. So enjoy the jelly beans. Also, get a lot of sleep and eat right and drink a lot of water. All of those practices we know that are important too. Moderation is important.
Very good. Well, thank you, Jessica, for your time today.
Yeah.
Let us know if we can help out in your show, if you need any technical advice or you need to test it on guinea pigs. We're happy to help out there. And,
okay, I appreciate it. And if I can show up and be available in any way, please do.
Yeah, very good. Well, we'll look into doing a breath break with you next week and see if we can get a big Zoom group on as well as our YouTube. Yeah. All right, everyone. We will see you tomorrow, 2:00. We have our coach on tomorrow, and he is a coach and motivator, and he's going to tell us what's happening in the athletics world as well as education and how that is affecting everyone and how they're dealing with that. So that should be interesting. So join us tomorrow, and thanks again, Jessica. Everyone, wash your hands, stay healthy, stay home, and look at Alberto and give him a wave because he's got a new mask he's excited about. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye.
Care.
Thanks, Jessica.